In today's episode, we have a good friend of mine, Dr. Chris Spearman. We first met 10 years ago and have been rising in the online space ever since. We break down exactly what you need to be successful, not just for a week, not just for a month, but for 10 years, a decade. Ultimately, there's going to be a huge amount you can take out of this from a personal development standpoint, a lot you can take about it from actually growing your business from a strategic standpoint. We open up the curtain in terms of what's actually happened over the last few years and how we've both got into the position we're in. Now, let's get into the episode. Today I'm joined by Chris. Myself and Chris have known each other for going on 10 years now, maybe 2014, 2015. You were a university student in Kingston-on-Thames. I was a ropey estate agent in Walton-on-Thames in the UK. And we met at this wonderful gym, which was not exactly high-end, called Physique Warehouse. A lot has changed in the last 10 years. If you look back when we first met by the squat rack, I actually remember it, did you think we would be sitting here in the position we are now?
You were lifting twice as much as me, so that's probably what I remember most. No, I didn't like. I think a lot has changed, but I think most of the time, like when we speak, we're just looking at like what's next. I actually never thought in 10 years' time, where am I going to be? Yeah, a lot has happened. Some good, some bad.
What would you say in that period has been the hardest thing you've been through?
Whew. Business-wise, personal? I'd say
go for one of each.
Yeah, let's say business-wise, I would say I don't know if there's anything specifically that stands out business-wise. I think I've just become accustomed to the fact that entrepreneurship is meant to be painful. Like, I think I look at it now that the pain is like the precursor to success. It's not like pain is something that might happen. Pain is the precursor. So like as you're going through pain, especially in business, that's when you know you're in the right place. Because if you're not, you're just doing the same thing over and over again. So I would say lots of like bad things in business, like, but you just become accustomed to it. And like maybe a payment gateway going down. Probably when we moved, around the same time we moved to Dubai, we had a few payment gateways that were up in the air. And you may have like 40, 50, 60K in recurring revenue, which at the time is, well, it's a lot regardless. And they're like, oh, you've got a few days and we're going to shut this down. That sort of thing. So that's challenging. But then once you overcome that, you're like, oh, well, if this happens again, I know how to deal with it now. Personal wise, there's been a lot of challenges in my life, I would say, from childhood to maybe bad decisions that I've made in my personal life, dating wise, I would say. I think if I could go back in time and speak to the person that you met, and I remember because you used to pick me up at the train station, again, ropey student, so didn't have a pot to piss in at the time. The amount of times that you would even say to me in your car, like, what's the woman trouble today? Like, what's happening now? Like, and it was almost like you're obviously married at the time. So, but if I go back in time, I would have a conversation with myself and say, like, think of all the time and energy you're wasting. And I would say that to, my team. I say that to men if they ask my opinion. I would say, become the man that you want to be and attract the attention rather than chasing the attention. And I think there's probably a deeper meaning in life for that too, I would say. A lot of bad mistakes along that road.
I don't know why it just reminded me that something that came into my head when you said that was that I saw a post on LinkedIn recently, someone talked about for men when they move to Dubai, one of the biggest downfalls of this, and we know a few people like this, is exotic women. So like people come here and their relationship thing fucks up, or they go off the rails and they get distracted and don't end up doing the work they're supposed to be doing. And you can kind of see it over and over and over again in certain cycles. And I think that is one of the biggest things I think in particular like men need to probably try and control to stop them kind of getting led astray.
It's tough, not just like women, but cars, like flashy stuff. I think it's really important to align yourself. Like this is maybe overly deep for the first section of the podcast, but I don't know if I said this exact thing to you, but now that you have a daughter, it might be more poignant, is for the last few years, at least for the last 4 or 5 years, if I'm making a decision and it's maybe a challenging one, it could be business, it could be personal, it could be dating, whatever it may be, I envisage 2 future children of mine. I tell you this before. So I have this vision of my future daughter and my future son sat down 2 chairs with a clipboard, and they're judging the decisions that I make today. And they're going to look back and ask me to justify those choices. And that's only something, it was actually Ben Pekulski who helped me kind of formulate that way of thinking, because he said, the decisions that you make now when you don't have children will dictate the life they're going to live. And when I'm forced now to make a decision, I think, okay, I don't have a wife, I don't even have a partner or a girlfriend, so I don't have kids. So I think, well, whatever decisions I make now will change my future that they will have access to. So I try and hold that at maybe a higher standard, and that's been quite useful, I would say.
So I think that's also a frame that a lot of people don't think of enough, is that they think they're doing okay in their business. They make 5K a month, 10K a month. And you would see this a lot. And the people are very, very arrogant, and they cut themselves short in their ability and capacity of what they can achieve because they think they're okay for where they are right now. Whereas like the game is you want to be so far ahead that when you have children that you don't have to worry about anything. Medical, like I've had shitloads of medical bills with having a child recently.
Sure.
Like, doesn't matter. I can get the best hospital, best like medical care because of the work I put in 5 years ago. And that's where a lot of people are sacrificing the future that's like in the next few years because of the work they're not willing to do today.
Again, I mean, I'll have different views to everyone. No one's the same, but I question, like, even what I invest or spend money in now is calculated, regardless of how much money, we've made. I'm still very calculated with the decisions that I make, because I don't ever want to be in a situation where someone that I love needs something I can't provide. Want is fine, but need. And obviously, with my background, my mum and, growing up single parent household, she's obviously disabled, 4 boys, I was the eldest. I always knew in the back of my mind that, well, no one else is going to look after her. So I think I probably future think that a lot with children in the future. And I was listening to, I don't know if you've read Boris Becker's book or listened to a podcast he did recently, but he went bankrupt. And obviously he reckons between 10 and 20 million, which back in the day was a lot more than it is now. And the first thing that comes to my mind, and probably everyone's, is how can you go bankrupt? And as I was reading his book, I became quite scared, to be honest, because he had like these children and this baby mother, and like his expenses stayed the same. And he had all of these outgoings. And as soon as he stopped maybe his sponsorship deals or his like TV work, that started to dry up. All of a sudden he had maybe 50, 60 grand a month in outgoings. And then he had to remortgage stuff and take loans out. And I'm there going, how much money do I actually need to be okay? Like, and like, I would say I'm pretty okay, like in the grand scheme of things, but that's relative. So when I hear people say, oh, listen, I'm doing okay, and they don't own a home, they've got mortgages on their car, they're not married, they don't have kids. I'm like, bro, like, it depends. Again, like money's not everything, but it definitely helps with security.
I would say money is not everything, but freedom is, and money can give you freedom
right.
And choices. And
yeah,
options.
For sure. Yeah. So someone asked me, I can't remember, it was on a group call once, and they said, what is the most valuable thing? What are some of the most valuable things that money's been able to provide? And the obvious ones, like, let's say healthcare for my mum or things for loved ones. But me personally, it's not to buy myself things. I would argue that experiences is great, but what it buys me is the ability to not have to deal with people I don't want to be around. Like, I don't have to be in a house share. I don't have to be in a town that I don't want to live in. I don't have to be going to an office where people I don't like. I don't have to be in certain places in the world. Like, it allows me to restrict my access to people I don't want to be around, which, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to grow, you need to be, I think, in a really good frame of mind because it's painful.
Quick interjection into the podcast. I know a lot of people watching the podcast haven't yet subscribed. I have one small favor to help us get bigger and better guests to give you more value. It's hit the subscribe button. I appreciate it massively. And that's where I think a lot of people set themselves up for failure already because of the people they're surrounding themselves with, or the information they get provided and spoon-fed every day. They start to kind of drink the Kool-Aid that you can't do X, Y, Z. And even like having a child recently, people have just said to me like, oh, like everything's going to change. You won't be able to do this anymore. You won't be able to go to the gym. Your business is going to struggle, whatever. Like we've had the best month we've had this year and I had a baby 2 weeks ago.
Yep. Yeah, well,
Like nothing fucking like
Yeah.
it's the same thing.
well, also, I think like for a lot of people out there that don't have kids, this is your opportunity to set up the life that you've had being able to bring your daughter into the world. A lot of people don't think that far ahead. Like, and listen, this isn't me. I don't want to like judge other people's decisions when it comes to money, but like, just let's use the fitness industry as an example. My goal wasn't to like burn money on business and first class flights to like showboat against the other coaches in the space to make it seem like I'm making way more money than I am when some people we know are doing that and they can't afford to pay their rent. Like I know people like that here in Dubai who are like flashing all of this sort of stuff. Flash all the stuff you want, but doing it for other people's gratification when you're actually struggling deep down or you're not willing. I don't want to mention names specifically, but I remember we had a conversation. So I reviewed a sales call that you did like 2 years ago. You know what I'm talking about. And that person's still flying business. And like they couldn't afford like 2 or 3K to get serious help at the time, which was the initial down payment or something. And like, I'm just like, how are you so short-sighted? And listen, this isn't me trying to judge this person. It's giving advice to people or my younger self to go like, invest long-term. Like business is decades, not years, definitely not months or quarters. It's decades, like 10 years ago. And where will we be in 10 years time? I don't know about you. I feel I'm 20% in. I feel I've 80% left to go. Like, I feel like I've just done the warm up and like I've learned a few things. I've realized there's a lot more things that I don't know. And I'm just like, okay, cool. Get me back on the pitch now. I'm ready. Like, that's how I feel.
The way I'd frame it is even in the last 3 months, it feels like it's a different game that I've kind of then moved into, but then also the game is easier but higher leverage and the opportunities are suddenly way bigger. So instead of like, and these things are kind of coming to me now rather than the other way around. I made some bullshit thing up in like a YouTube video I talked about yesterday about called like the turbo effect. Once you get to a certain like stage in your business, you have enough traffic, reach, reputation. People just come to you with stuff that they want you to like own part of or be involved with because they know you have an influence.
Which can be the woman in the red dress.
Yeah, it can be, but like, which is then also where you have to be selective with choices. And I also think that that's probably a mistake I've made a lot of times in business before, which is like trying to do everything. Where at the moment I just try and really just cut a lot of shit out, so no to as much stuff as possible.
I think so. I think especially in the last, say, 3 years or so. So to preface to this, I guess, when I doubled down on the let's say the LinkedIn high ticket mentorship side of things, I had to cut off. And obviously the word decide comes from the Latin word, which literally means to cut off. So what version of your life do you want to cut off? And I had to make a choice. I believe I made the right choice in deciding I needed to cut one off. Do I double down on one or do I try and balance two? And I feel like it's arrogant to think that you want to be one of the best in the world at 5 things when there's someone like a Kobe Bryant or, you know, a Michael Jordan who is spending 18 hours a day just doing one thing. So when we speak, let's say over the last 2 years, I think I get a lot of value from you in terms of spend more and like be more aggressive. And I need to hear that. But I guess one of the values I think I lend you is like what's going really well. And let's just do more of that, because it's so easy for us when we have opportunities to go, oh, this, I can make more money over here. I can make money stripping. Maybe not as much as you're jacked, but like I can make money driving Uber. It's like, okay, but is that the best use of my time? How can I leverage what I'm doing right now? And actually what's difficult is not setting up another business. What's difficult is how do I stay in the same vehicle, doing the same thing, but try to do it 10% better? That's tougher than setting up another fucking business, right? Like right now I could go, oh, I'm going to bowl into Charlie's Arena and I'm going to set up a ads high ticket course for people who want to run ads on Instagram. And I reckon I could probably get to 50 to 100K in a month in a short period of time. But that's going to take away from me just adding an extra 100K to what I'm already doing. Do you know what I'm saying?
And a great way I'd frame this as visualization for anyone who's watching or listening to this is if I'm in year 5 of my business, and let's say that Easy Massive does 100K a month, and then I'm coming in and I can start a new business that's going to do, in year 1, it will get to say 30, 40K a month. The year 6 of the 100K a month business is probably going to be 150. The other one might only go up another like 20K. So you're going to cannibalize the one you already have. You're just going to end up like you're robbing Pete to pay Paul, which is what a lot of people do. They become a busy fool. But what I'm starting to realize is that the longer you just stay specializing in one thing, it just compounds and compounds and compounds. But also your team get better and better because they're just focusing on doing one thing all the time, and their skill set just improves.
The biggest, in relation to that, something that I see that's really poignant, probably for people watching this, if you're a fitness coach, is, and I'm just going to tell you my opinion. So I've coached people, as have you, who've done this. They start out as a solopreneur, they make a little bit of money. They double down, they realize, and maybe they leave their estate agency job and they double down. And then they grow and they get to 20, 30K a month in their fitness business, and then they start to hire loads of people. And then they slowly scale then they make their amount of money they want to make. And then they scale themselves out, which is miraculous by itself. Because the toughest thing, and you're one of the few people that I know that have done this, along with myself and maybe 1 or 2 other people that I know, that have been able to take themselves out of the business and it still make money and grow. Most people cannot grow their own business without taking sales calls. Like, you can scale yourself out of some things, but that's a really tough thing to do, which you've done really well. So some of them just about managed to do that, maybe. And then now that they've scaled themselves out and they have a vehicle that can run without them, that is bringing high cash flow, high profit margin, complete location and time freedom, right? They then go, now that my team are eating into a little bit of the profits, instead of going from 50K to 100K and making an extra 30, 40K profit, they go, I'm going to mentor some young people who want to learn what I did. And then they go back in the fucking DMs doing the shit that just in a different vehicle. Yes, it's a slightly higher ticket, but you've gone from making like 40K a month profit, like just managing the team, to now making an extra 10, 20, 30K a month, but doing everything. And then what happens is they have to balance both businesses. And very few people have been able to make that transition very successfully. You have massively, and that was a natural transition for you. But a lot of these people, they just end up switching vehicles. And now they're in a position where, I don't want to mention because I know some of them, but they then position themselves to compete against, let's say, you or myself or someone else, to say, oh, but you get access to me. Okay, fine, but at what point does that stop? Because then if you want to scale then you're just back in the previous vehicle. It's just you're making a little bit more money.
You just built another job for yourself.
Right. And and that's fine if that's your passion. But then it comes down to, when you're starting business, what's your goal? Because for me, my goal was not to necessarily make more money. It was to have enough money, but to have time and location freedom and enjoy the parts of business. You're exceptionally good at some areas of business that I'm not. And the areas of business that I like, I try and go, cool, let me focus on these things and let me outsource the other bits and pieces. So I think it's important when you're getting into business to identify, in an ideal world, we use this on sales calls all the time. If I gave you a magic wand and you could wave it, and in 12 months' time, tell me exactly what your business would look like and exactly what you would and wouldn't be doing. And that's a good place to start, because most people think making more money is the goal. But a lot of people would sacrifice less money for not taking sales calls or not doing X, Y, and Z. So I think that's a self-awareness thing that probably a lot of people don't have when they start, I would say.
And I think it's also be careful what you're building, because a lot of people build themselves something they fucking hate. And I've had phases of that, and I know you have also as well, where it's like, this is just shit, but I'm just going to do it anyway. And you just have to kind of grind through that phase, but you also learn, and then you suddenly realize there's also other ways to do things to then actually, like, what I try and focus on, I literally look at my calendar all the time. It's like, is this a high leverage thing or is it not? Like, this podcast is high leverage.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if I'm going to do...
And we would do this if no one was listening.
Yeah, we just talk bullshit anyway. Yeah. So, like, and people might find this insane if you do, just drop it in the comments. But the reality is, I think that if you kind of look all the time, like, is this going to have a compounding effect for a period of time? And then you also do that for 5 years, you will be really successful over a period of time.
Yeah. And I think, like, business is meant to be painful. Like, you know, you don't make millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, like, without going through challenge. And I think pain is the initiation to success. Pain is the precursor to success. It's not a consequence or a byproduct. I think it's not like you're going on this journey and it will be painful at some point. To me, the journey starts when the pain begins. And I know that's deep, but like pain is like an awakening to, like, some people see pain as like this thing in my business has happened. My experience has been the vast majority of things in my life, not just in business, that have been painful, have been the world exposing a part of me that needed to be stronger. I know that's deep, but that's how I think about it. Like, I think the world has shown me an area of myself that needs to be improved, or that can be stronger, or that's weak. And I think that's applicable men and women. It's not a masculinity thing, but I feel like, I mean, if I was a woman, I wouldn't want to date a weak man, but like mentally. So there's an element of that. But I think the pain just uncovers a part of us. I said this on one of our team calls. Is like, it was actually when I was back in London during the summer, and I was doing seated rows on a cable machine. And I was just looking at I was training with Ish, who used to cut her hair in Kingston. And I was just watching him do it, and I just thought, he said, "Oh, how much weight should we put on?" And my answer was like, it doesn't matter. And in that moment, I thought, okay, so we're manipulating the weight to change us. We're using the weight the same way we use pain and challenge. Challenge and pain are a tool that we use to become stronger. And I framed it to myself in that moment. And I'm like, I put a message into the group chat, and I'm like, the challenges that we face in life are tools that are given to us to become better and stronger. And I think when you walk into a challenging environment with that, I think that can elevate you. And I think, like, strong people, I believe, are people that can like walk through fire unfazed.
Quick introduction to the podcast. I want to make this specifically for you to help you achieve everything you want in life. So I have one small ask. Let me know what you actually want. If there's anything you want to see specifically on the podcast, drop it in the comments. If there's anything you specifically want to learn about in the podcast, drop it in the comments or message me on Instagram. Now back to the podcast. So you just reminded me of something I thought about this morning. And then one of our clients, Dom, just hit his first 200K month. And I was thinking, I was like, what makes him really successful versus X, Y, Z? Because he's had loads of things also go wrong in the last 6 to 12 months. Ad accounts disabled, IG accounts banned, all this type of usual shit. All the things that happen to me on like a regular basis, hopefully not so much. And I thought, and I was like, the number one thing is emotional stability. He doesn't lose his fucking mind when something goes wrong. And actually someone said that to me. It's like, he gave an example in terms, I think I might have sent you the reel about like Casino Royale, in terms of James Bond loses loads of money. And then he's like, oh, fuck it, I just ordered, like, comes up with some sick drink that he wants to order. It's like having the ability to like stay cool when like the house is on fire is a really important skill that I think many people can't like really comprehend. And I listened to Stephen Bartlett talk about this, I think, on one of his vlogs, where he had him and like a founder of some drinks company or whatever it was. And he said the biggest thing that he sees with people who are really, really successful is that when they're absolutely crushing, they're like, when it's really, really bad, like, it's like not getting too pulled into like drinking your own Kool-Aid or also thinking the world's ending. Yeah, I think also like, I don't want to make this a masculinity podcast. You've done a few of them already, but it could be. But I think our audience is 90% men. So that's good, fine. So I think like my experience in life has been like difficult childhood, as I've spoken about before. Saw domestic violence for the first 10 years of my life, almost every day. Life has just rewarded me with a positive feedback loop from acting logically, not emotionally. And if for the first 10 years of my life I was emotional, I wouldn't have survived. I had to maybe shut off my emotions to some degree, which is challenging in other areas of my life, of course, but to just do what I know needs to be fucking done. And in business, I feel like the less emotional we are, or the less emotional decisions we make, the better. Like I have seen zero evidence to suggest otherwise. Every time I feel emotional, and I think that's as a leader of people, I think that's an important thing that we need to, if you're very, I don't want to say emotionally unstable, because that sounds like, you know, a mental health situation, and that's different. I mean, like, you can
I mean, like if you're volatile as by nature, it's quite challenging to lead people. Just look at that like logically. You're telling a group of 200 soldiers, this is the plan, this is what we're going to do. If these things happen, we go here. If these things happen, we go here. And then 5 minutes in, shit kicks off and you just change the whole game plan. They're like, hold on. Like, that's to me not a good trait of leadership. So, which is challenging. It's challenging if you're not a volatile, or you are a volatile person. It's also very difficult to coach volatile people. Like, you've noticed that?
Yeah, I say they're super uncoachable, and that's also what I say. Two things I think for people who are uncoachable, and I'd say alongside emotional stability, the second superpower you can have is being very coachable. Mm-hmm. Like if you listen and then you also execute. Mm-hmm. The people who tend to be very volatile also tend to be the ones who then don't want to actually execute and do something because they'll find any reason not to do the thing they need to do.
Yeah. I think if you're watching this isn't a plug, I don't get a kickback. You should go to understandmyself.com. It's a personality test. I know there's loads. It's been the best one that I've used. It's Jordan Peterson is one of the founders, but it'll give you a really comprehensive breakdown. We've done it before. I've sent it to you before. It'll give you a really comprehensive breakdown of what areas of your top 5 personality traits divided into 2. It'll give you a very good understanding of things as an entrepreneur as well that you're good at or you might need to work on. And that has been insightful, and it's something that you and I have both done for some of our team members in the hiring process before. That's definitely worth having a look at. And I guess you need to understand yourself before you can understand the business. Like, it's an extension of you in lots of ways. Like, the chaos that I see in someone's business is a reflection often of the chaos within themselves. If someone doesn't track data, generally they're not an organized person. If someone is too conservative when it comes to spending money on ads, that's a reflection of their beliefs or how they are. Or if someone is very aggressive in their marketing and they're like you, that's let's just get it done. Like, action taker, like not procrastinate. I think a lot of the problems that we see in business are personal problems that just are expressed through the business really a lot of the time.
That's why often when I speak to people and I see they've had a bad few months, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, what have you done the last few months? Oh, I've been traveling. I went to Bali. I went to Thailand. I'm like, and so like, why do you think you haven't had a bad few months?
Yeah.
And I was actually thinking about this morning again. I'm like trying to break down like why have we had the best month of the year. It's like for the last few months I haven't gone anywhere. I've just been at home working. I went to Vegas for like 3 days for a Hormozy thing, and then that was it. So like, I haven't been floating around. I
forgot you did that as well. And you bounced there, come straight back. Yeah. No messing around.
Yeah. And I think that's also a sign of commitment for people who like listening to this. Very few people are going to fly 44 hours there and back, like a 12-hour time difference for like 1 day, plus the cost of doing the thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you mentioned earlier about like what people spend money on. And as you were saying, I was thinking like the most important thing I think about is what can I spend money on to learn more? And because I know the compound effect in terms of my skill set increasing, and then secondly, maybe like my reputation or reach increasing, which is why I don't mind kind of blasting money at paid ads, because I know the leverage off of those two things is massive.
Yeah, I think you've identified your strengths as well, and you've always kind of been that way. Like, I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, but do you remember what you told me about your dad's friend?
Yeah.
So like, Charlie, back to when Charlie used to pick me up from that train station and we were training partners like 2014, 2015. I can't remember what it was, but something was going on with like maybe the house or something, that you were moving into a new house or something, or I think it was when you were maybe moving from one house, buying the other house. And you were giving out about something and you're like, you know what, you said like, my dad's friend told me this thing once and it stuck with me for my life so far. And it was that if you throw enough money at a problem, it normally goes away. Not always, but normally goes away. And it's actually far more accurate than I realized. And when it comes to marketing problems or hiring or maybe giving, an extra few % to your team to perform better, like that's normally good. It's not always the case, but it helps. It helps. That stuck with me.
And that's where I think on like first principles and a lot of things. And like one of them would be that. The other one, actually, I remember another friend of my dad had a thing on his desk which says like, just do it now. So it's like, if there's something you can do, just do it straight away.
Yeah.
And the more you kind of study really successful people, they all say the exact same thing: just fucking do it as quickly as possible, because as soon as you've implemented and executed, it's either worked or it's not worked.
Yeah.
And then by like default, you've taken one option off the table that doesn't work.
You know, you said something to me also a few years ago. You said this, and at the time, first of all, I don't think this is fully true. I don't think you're lazy, but your justification for doing something now was that you said you're lazy and you'll sit on it if you don't do it now, which is so counterintuitive. That's you taking this lazy thing, which I don't think you are at all. You were like, oh, I'm just going to do it now because I'll just sit on it if I don't do it. And you've turned what could be a weakness for most people into a strength by executing it straight away. I was like, I get it. Like, this makes sense because, yeah. And I would say because there's an element of me that's maybe a thinker, or I'm trying to think of a smarter way. You could spend your life thinking of a smarter way to do something, and that's a strength. That's a weakness that I need to work on. I'm trying to look at a smarter way of doing something whilst procrastinating, just giving it a go and seeing how it goes. And I think, to be honest and to be fair, over the last number of years, I've taken a lot of value from you in your way of doing that. I go, no, let's just do it now. So with my team, I'll go, let's just do it now and let's just assess as we go, because I've identified that as a weakness. But that's a personal weakness. That's a personal development thing that I needed to work on. And I would say most people listening to this, the problems that you have in your business are personal problems manifesting in your business. Like, unless, like, if you look at the data, it's like, okay, as long as you look at the data, you can go, cool, the show up rate needs to improve. Let's improve the show up rate. Cool. The closing rate needs to improve. Let's just improve the closing rate. But generally speaking, after looking at the data, wherever there's an issue, there's a reason. And whatever that reason is it's been manifested by you. And that's super powerful and very, like, gives people a lot of clarity, I think, when they see that.
I agree 100%. I think one thing I'd also say, I see a lot of people who they obsess over like small details, which is why the business stays in the same position for a long period of time, of like, oh, I want to try and improve the opt-in rate 0.1%. It's like, bro, no, fuck, it's going to make no fucking difference. Yep. Whereas if you can just like blunt force violence, 10x more traffic through the front end, and the whole thing's profitable, you make way more money, even if it's slightly inefficient. So my thing is always just like, let's just do it and kind of see what happens. And that's why I try and look at like a decision-making thing of like, is it a one-way door or a two-way door? Is it like, can I turn this thing on or off? Or is it like, I'm going to start a business, set up a legal entity, and like, I have a business partner. Like, this isn't something I can necessarily just step out, like, and press a button to turn off.
Yep.
It's trying to have that kind of decision-making.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, that was something that I admittedly needed to kind of to work on, because like when I speak to yourself or James or Stefan or some of my closest friends, they're like, you've got one of them, even when you ask about our sales process, one of the most efficient systems. What I need to work on is just letting it fly a little. And so now when we're mentoring, let's say people that are running ads on LinkedIn, I'll look at their data, and on average, our clients are getting maybe once they're up and running, they're getting a minimum of a 4 to a 5x ROAS on their ad spend. It dips sometimes seasonally, but generally 4 to 5x. And we have some people who are making maybe, let's say 10, 12K a month, putting 2K in. And they're like, yeah, like, I just want to get this better. I'm like, spend 5K and make like 30K. Oh yeah, but it's like, just try that.
So the reason why most people can't do that, and that's why I sent you that graph yesterday, because it's interesting.
Right.
So I have a graph on a software system used called Hyros, where I can see revenue, amount we spent on ads, and then calls. The calls are so low compared to the others, you can't see it. But what happens, people increase their ad spend for like 5 days, they then shit their pants and they pull the ad spend back. The reality is it takes probably at least 2 to 4 weeks to really kind of see that kick in. Mm-hmm. But most people have such a poor relationship with money that they're like, every day their card gets charged, they're kind of like getting more anxious. And if they're also taking the sales calls themselves, they're almost like breaking on the sales call because they want to try and close people. Whereas I think when I see a lot of people start to do better is when their business starts to scale more, they start to get more of a detachment from money in some respect. And like, they know they can make more. So if like, okay, if I lose 15 grand on paid ads, it's not the end of the world.
And I've even noticed that in the last kind of year or two myself, really. John Madsen said this before, is like, you could go 10, 20K in the hole and make no sales. I think what happens is if you're selling a higher ticket thing, let's say some of our clients are selling a 5K, 7.5K health and fitness package on LinkedIn to whoever. they could spend, let's say, 2K on ads and make nothing. And then all of a sudden they just fucked up one sales call that could have been a 7.5K, and all of a sudden it's like a 4x ROAS. And because a lot of, let's say, our clients compared to some other clients, it's all paid in fulls, they don't necessarily have a lot of the recurring revenue. So it takes a more stable individual.
So that's why you need emotional stability again.
Correct. Exactly. So, and some of the people, let's say, that I would have mentored before, working with previous mentors that we won't mention, you know, they were selling maybe 150 a month or 175 a month, and they have like 40, 50 clients. So yeah, that's great. That's fine. They've got this recurring revenue. That's just a different business model. And a lot of those people have struggled. And if you're listening to this, this will tell you a lot more about yourself than you realize, is that you've struggled moving away from security into exceptionality, to try and go, cool, well, instead of getting on a sales call, I close everyone. So first of all, it's, oh, my show-up rate's like 95%. Yes, because they've followed you for 4 years. And I close most people. Yes, because you're asking for £175 on the first call. Like, why wouldn't they? Like, that's a grey goose in China white. Like, it's not expensive in the grand scheme of things. And a lot of those people struggle when they move over and they start to sell 5K, 7.5K packages, because they're not used to hearing no. They can't handle a that's expensive. And in their mind, it is expensive. So when someone goes to you and they go, oh yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be that expensive, their inner voice goes, yeah, it is expensive. I just asked them for a lot of money. Whereas it needs to be expensive. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you've spent tens of thousands of pounds on this health journey before. I wouldn't say this is expensive if you get the result right. So they struggle then moving over to sell high ticket because of the volatility. But it's hard to be successful in most arenas without being able to step through the fire, as we said. It's different. It requires a different person. And a self-awareness from someone listening to this that is, I don't want to say you're an unstable person, but you're volatile in your emotions. You probably should stick to a more recurring revenue or a safer style approach. Naturally, don't want to get cancelled, but just biologically, men are slightly less volatile statistically. It's not my judgment. Statistically are slightly less volatile than women. And therefore, as we can probably gather from empirical evidence in our own lives, it is probably more advantageous for women to have, let's say, more of a recurring revenue-based model. Not always, and you've got some killer clients that have crushed 200, 250K months that are women. That's an anomaly too, not because women aren't able to, but because statistically it is harder to run a business on emotional decisions. And if you are a woman and you are listening to this and you are doing an amazing job at growing a business, it's probably because you've been able to handle your emotions and detach them slightly from your business, which is really important. And don't get me wrong, some men are like that too. And if they're jabbing X, Y, and Z, their volatility or their emotions are up, down, left, and right, which is the fitness industry, and that's a fucking nightmare as well. I'm not going to get you deplatformed.
No. So on the female side, I think it's fascinating having coached so many different people, because I also see the women who genuinely are very successful tend to have slightly more masculine energy and tend to have a lot more driven. And I also think for everyone listening to this, there's two different buckets of people. Patrick Bet-David had a great story about this. He talked about his son. His son said he wanted to be, I will be the best fighter in the world. And he said it to his dad, said to his whole family, he's like 7 years old, off jiu-jitsu. And then he picked up his son from jiu-jitsu, and the jiu-jitsu trainer was like, yeah, he's not really trying that hard. He doesn't seem that interested. So he spoke to him, like, what's kind of going on? And they brought it up at their dinner table, and he's like, I want to be the best fighter in the world, not I will. And then they all correct him, like you said, I will be. And this is the difference between people who I will be successful and I want to be successful. The people who will do whatever it takes. The people who want are kind of like dipping their toe in. And I've always been a will person, like I will be really, really successful. I will achieve exactly what I want. And if you have that type of framework and that mindset, it will happen. It's just when.
Yeah. I think also knowing what's required. A lot of people, if I've ever heard someone say, I'm really going to get stuck into my business right now. What have you been doing up until now? And I'm not I think it's important for us, if we're speaking on a podcast like this, is to not try and dog you out by saying why the fuck are you not doubling down on your business, But we are lying if you think that we don't work harder than 99% of people, we're lying to you. Like, we're not going to say, hey, join our programs, you're going to be successful. 90% of you will fail. You may not, I don't know what you feel about that, but like, most people won't be successful because it's not in them. They don't have it to be successful. We can give you the scripts. We can show you how to run ads on Facebook and LinkedIn. We can show you how to build a team. But the fact of the matter is, we won't make it. Like, I hate to say that, but it's true because I've seen it a million times. It's in here. Like, and make it's relative, I understand. But the vast majority of people will not succeed in entrepreneurship. It just doesn't happen. Like, you create a job. That's fine. And that's great. And it's better than working for someone else sometimes. But we're lying to you if we don't tell you that it's been fucking painful, and we know it's going to be even more painful in the future. Don't think that just because you make money, the pain goes away. You just have more people depending on you to not fuck up, which is tougher, right?
That's why I'm laughing.
Yeah. So
the pressure gauge increases, but your ability to tolerate that pressure,
right?
Is just...
So I've got a very good relationship with my dad now. He wasn't in for various different reasons. That wasn't necessarily his fault in my life growing up. We have a Zoom call once a week, which has been healing for us to reconnect. And we're speaking about one of my sisters on my dad's side, one of his daughters. And we're talking about her driving in Dubai. And I was like, Dad, it's reckless. Like, it's wild. And I'm like, listen, I'm not a parent. So, and my dad's like freaking out over it. He's like, yeah, but what if this happens? And I just said, like, I just kind of framed it this way. I said, well, does she plan to stay in Dubai? And he said, yes. Okay, well, she's going to drive at some point. Yes. So my advice is, well, and again, I'm not a parent, but my vision is, my goal isn't going to be to keep my children safe, because I can't always. I want them to be safe. My goal is to equip them so they're competent enough and able enough to defend themselves when I leave, when I'm gone, when I die. So I said, if that's the case and she's going to drive eventually, then my advice would be to help her be competent and learn all of the things she needs to learn to be safe to do this thing, because you can't control her decisions forever. And in business, it's the same. It's, do you want to hope that business goes okay, because that's a fucking fairy tale, or do you want to become able and competent enough to deal with the bullshit? And how can you deal with bullshit that's never arisen? Hence why, as I said earlier, the pain is the precursor to success. Because without that, you don't learn. And learning is not just, learning is fine, but it's, I think, like, we talk about high agency a lot. Yeah. And I would say, and I think you've said this to me a few times, but most people in my life would say that know me really well, that if they were given one call from prison and they're in a situation they shouldn't have been in, that I would be the person they pick the phone up to. And the reason that's been my goal my whole life is because I needed to be that person very young. And it's the skill that I have seen that has been the most valuable thing in life, is to be able to deal with difficult situations, to make rational decisions, to make intelligent decisions, problem solve, but also give an empathetic point of view. And in business, that only happens, you can only get high agency from dealing with problems. So when a problem arrives, you should take a break and go, what is God teaching me now? What is life trying to teach me now? And I know this is cliche, but if we wanted to be good sailors, we would pray for rough weather. You wouldn't pray for anything else. Would you pray for a great boat? No, I wouldn't. I would go, I want the worst external situation that's outside of my control, and let me try and harness that, and let me try and navigate that. And I think that's a good frame of mind. It gives good comfort when shit's really hitting the fan. You go, right, what am I supposed to learn from this? And I know that's easy said and done, because, sometimes, like, cancer hits and difficult things happen, and there's things that we wish didn't happen to us, but ultimately a lot of those things are outside of our control. How we show up is within our control.
And that's where I think the value of life experience is also huge. And even though I had something yesterday that came to mind with a client who kind of shit the bed because his Instagram account got disabled, and he was having an absolute meltdown. I'm like, dude, like, don't chill. Like, this happened to me like 9 times in 1 month last year. It's like, I got you. It's like, message this dude, he'll get your account back in like an hour, and then he's fine. And I think that's also when, I've said this a lot to you before, like my favorite sayings is like, two things solve problems, there's money and people. If you know the right person, you got money, you can pay the person to solve the problem for you. So it's like every problem other than death is kind of solvable. And they might be able to try and figure that out eventually if you have enough money, maybe 50 years, 100 years, depending on what happens with AI. But I think a lot of people just can't think rationally in those kind of situations. But I think what most people struggle with is that as they keep progressing, the pressure levels keep going up. And I think Ed Might has a great saying about thermostat. Like as you're getting more success, you're turning the thermostat up in the room. People are, oh, it's getting a bit hot now. And then it starts like they turn it back down. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to pull my ad spend back. I'm going to kind of slow down. I don't want to scale my business too fast, which is a really retarded narrative I've seen people pushing as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to make too much money. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
I don't understand.
But also like just to kind of course correct a little, I do understand that like that stress isn't for everyone, you know, and that's okay. And the thing that maybe a lot of the people that I have mentored in the past weren't built for entrepreneurship. They would have been fucking amazing employees for someone else. And that's not failure, by the way. Like, look at, I don't know, let's say the CEO of like some tech company. He's employed. He isn't a shareholder, and he's still a success. Just because you're an amazing coach inside someone else's business doesn't mean you failed at entrepreneurship. Failed is how you want to define it, but like being an entrepreneur shouldn't be glorified above being an amazing coach or an amazing closer. It's different, and it's like there's pros and cons to both. Like if I could, there's so many people that I know that you've coached, that I've coached, that would have been better off, lived a happier life, just being a head coach in one of your entrepreneur clients' businesses. They would have been happier, more stable. They would have focused on the things they're good at. They would have been able to provide for their family. They could have negotiated a really good salary package with also some commission. That would have been way better for them. But they feel that in this narrative of online gurus, they have to be the entrepreneur. I don't think that's true, and I don't think that's fair. And I've coached thousands of salespeople that some were closers, some were entrepreneurs. And some of them were really good at closing, but they were fucking terrible entrepreneurs. So they would have been better off, you know, some of our team making 10, 15, 20K a month in commissions, or even more if they continue to scale and grow. Like, right, move to, let's say you can live anywhere in the world. You can take calls from your pajamas, just wear a shirt over. You could be in Bali. You can make 10, 15, 20, 25K a month, like $250,000 a year tax-free if you navigate your residency right. That's a good life. That's a really good life. You don't need to worry about the stress of a payment gateway or legal situations or managing a team or firing people or marketing or ads or ad accounts. Like, I think it's important that people also have that side of the coin, that it's, you don't have to go through the entrepreneurial pain. What's important is identifying if it's for you or not, I think.
If I look back when I was 18, I felt as a personal trainer, and 21 became an estate agent, and I didn't realise my basic salary was £12,000 a year when I was 21. And
where was this? In which one?
The same one in Walton.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
And it was commissions on top of that?
Yeah, but maybe I made like 25K my first year or something. That wasn't a lot. And then I look back now, it's like, yeah, I didn't earn a lot, but I learned a lot in terms of like how actual business works, how people manage each other, and like all this other type of stuff. So if I was actually anyone who's like 18 to 21, what I would try and do is find someone who I look up to, has the lifestyle I want, and like clearly knows what the fuck they're doing, like try and get around them and get involved in their ecosystem. Because you will get, like, the law of exposure, you're getting exposed to that at a young age, will teach you way more than any university, any school, anything. You would learn so fast, and you get paid for it.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this and you want to join one of our teams, apply for mine before Charlie's, please. No, the reason I say that is, like, we have a 16-year-old working for us doing different things. We have an 18-year-old, a few 18, 19, 20. Our average team outside of me and, let's say, the leadership team is like early 20s. And I look back and I go like, what I didn't take my first sales call until I was about 27, really. I remember I was selling in the DMs for a long time. So people coming in now, 17, 18, 19, 20, learning to close, coming in making, 5 to 10K in their first, if they stick at it and they're good for a year and they learn the offer, like making 100 grand in a year is not unrealistic in a good offer with a good team. The beauty is they get to learn and grow from some of us or other teams. And you're only going to make more money you're only going to get better at sales as time progresses. The biggest mistake in, being in, let's say, Jordan Belfort's team or being a celebrity sales trainer for Floyd Mayweather or Mike Tyson, the biggest mistake I've seen with closers is they come into a company and they're like, oh, yeah, okay, it takes about a month or two to really settle in, learn the offer, learn the system, get set up. It takes time. And then, oh, some other guy over here is making 10K and then they do the shiny object thing as a closer and it ruins them. The people that have been most successful that I've seen are people who've said, I'm going to commit to this for this period of time and I'm going to make it work. Because they're going to leave. So what? They're going to learn your offer, learn all of this stuff, and then bounce somewhere else, and then have to learn the whole thing all over again. It's pointless. So, like, if I could go back in time, business-wise, I would say, what area first of all, do you want to be remote or no? I would say yes, 100%. In a business like ours, if you're watching this, you're interested in coaching or education. Do you want to be the person who books the calls, closes the calls and speaks to people, or coaches the people? Doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur. Which one of those do you enjoy most? If you are making a successful living from your own business, great. Outsource the other two. If you're not, get a job in someone else's business doing one of those three things until you get so good at it you're making enough money and you can learn the other areas of the business. I never told you this before, but I joined... obviously I've known Rudy for a long time. Back before the pandemic, I joined his mastermind when it first launched. It was kind of an invite only at the time because he wanted testimonials to run ads on Facebook. And my relationship with Facebook. I don't know who I pissed off or who I upset, but we just kept getting our account shut down. So I joined that mastermind. Account got shut down again and I'm in this thing for a whole year. I'm like, fuck. Okay, so I came here to learn Facebook ads. And now I can't, so I just learned other things. So that failed. And then I learned a lot about teams and stuff. And it wasn't until I was his sales director and I was in the office that I used to spend about an hour most days sitting with the media buyers. And meanwhile, my business was still running by the side. I was going, oh, cool. And tell me what's this and what's that? And oh, I've got mine here. Can you just have a quick look at this? I learned more from running ads. I've learned a lot more since we've been meeting up. But at the time, I learned more from just sitting with those people. I was already in the team. I was managing the sales team, but I'm also learning other areas. The reason I say that is if you're out there and you want to make good money and you want to close, come into someone's business and close and learn what the setters are doing to book calls. Learn what the coaching team is doing to fulfill and vice versa. And then eventually you can grow and scale your own. I'm under no illusions that my team will go on to probably have their own business one day. Some will be cut out for it, some won't. Some will want to give it a go, some won't. But as long as they're with us learning and growing and making more money, that's a good place. So I think a lot of people out there would be better in someone else's business, but they need to figure that out by themselves. But that's not a failure, I don't think, to be honest.
No, I think the biggest thing that I think a lot of people lack is drive.
Yeah.
Regardless if you work for yourself or you work for someone else. Some people just fucking have the minerals and some people don't. And I think that's, instantly as soon as how well someone's going to do when they first start. For me, it's how urgently do they deal with things is a sign of how driven they are. Mm-hmm. If I'm okay, I need you to call this person and you literally just pick up the phone and go, okay, cool, this guy's on it. Mm-hmm. Whereas if it takes 4 hours, I'm okay, dude, how quick do people respond? So I'm so observant and neurotic on certain things that I kind of will mark people's cards very quickly. Because you can see certain signals and flags with people okay, this guy's going to crush, and then this guy's not. And I've never seen anyone come in who's been
bad and become good.
Ever.
Yeah, never.
Ever.
Never. That doesn't happen. Doesn't exist. Yeah. They can come in and be good and turn out to not be great, but it never happens the other way around. I noticed a lot of that, like you mentioned before, the difference between the UK and being in Dubai or parts of the US is like in some areas people move there to be around that environment because they're this way inclined. That doesn't mean that they're not successful people in the UK. It doesn't mean there's not successful people in other areas of the world. But surrounding yourself in an environment where people want really, really like deeply and to succeed, like makes a big difference. One of the things that we've incentivized our team with is, and I know you've done the same, is when people are with us for a long enough period of time that we can relocate them. My goal, I think, similar to you, is to have an office out here one day where it's like a Wolf of Wall Street. Remember when we went into Virtue for the first time? Are we plugging for them?
Yeah.
That was wild. I was like, fuck, like this is great. So like, that's definitely a goal for us on the horizon, I think. But the environment here is different. And again, listen, I'm not British, so, but I do have an affinity to the UK because it's given me a lot, but it's different. I don't know if I would. I don't know how much of my time I would spend back there, you know.
And I think that's where pick what you want in life. And I think that's also where I think people give Dubai a very bad rap because it can be whatever you want. If you want to go out and be a degenerate and be that type of person, you can do that. If you want to just focus on scaling your business, you can do that. If you want to raise a family here, you can do that. Like,
yeah, I mean,
you can just be who you want to be.
You can be a degenerate in Slough or Grimsby as well, you know, like you can do all of those things. I think my experience has been, I mean, for me, it's the weather's great. Taxes are low. There's no crime. Safe, convenient. Environment's good with like networking with people. Like, it's hard to argue for what I want in life right now against those things. Like, I don't hang out in degenerate places, or I don't party, or I've had maybe 2 drinks this year. So it's not like I'm doing all of that sort of stuff. So for me, I just stay out of those places, really. Like, but that happens everywhere, you know.
I think the big thing I think most people don't realize with Dubai, I think the biggest thing that for me was actually 2 huge mental things that took off me. One is the obvious one, is tax, because when I was in the UK, it used to be like, if you're trying a brown envelope turn off the door, it's like, fucking, like, what's this going to be? So you just something else you just don't have to think about. If you think as an entrepreneur, your job is to think. If you've got like part of your brain has been taken up by this all the time, like, oh, I need to try and fix this tax thing, blah, blah, blah. That's huge. The second thing is security. If you think of like the basic human needs is safety.
Well, now you have a daughter too, right?
Yeah, you don't have to worry about safety.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because we're like trying to keep locking the balconies upstairs. I'm like, dude, like we live on the Palm. There's security. The security to get in here.
Yeah.
In the safest country in the world.
Yeah.
It's the first floor. Like no one's going to climb up.
Yeah.
Like I think it's, and you realise the difference. I don't know if you find this in terms of contrast. If you go from here to like the UK or the US, you're something like, I remember when I was in Vegas in August, I remember walking out of the Venetian Hotel at like 6 a.m. to go for a walk. And there was just like a homeless crack addict, and then like some woman like having a crack at me for shouting at me for whatever reason. I'm like, bro, it's like 6 a.m. on a Monday. Just like, you don't need that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I spend a lot of time in Europe during the summer, and I miss it. You know, like I go from obviously driving a Rolls Royce here to jumping on the 411 bus back to Molesey. So I enjoy that. Like I was there maybe 3 months, like getting the bus and just doing the basic things, but I have the ability to remove myself from that. So, but I do like going back because it does kind of ground me a little. But I would be cautious with like what I'm wearing or what I'm doing, or it's challenging. You know, it's and the UK's changed quite a bit from what I've seen. Like when I've gone back, but again, I'm Irish, so I don't want to dig out your country that much.
Yeah, I think it's a country that's, statistics say everything. If 10,000 people left the UK last year who were millionaires, 16,000 are leaving 2025. It's a 60% increase. Like it's like a mass exodus.
Yeah, I think it's going to be challenging. Obviously, I'm not an economist or anything like that, but I think the math is going to be challenging for the UK because someone needs to like one of the things people say is like, how does Dubai survive without taxes or minimal taxes? And the answer is because, well, there isn't as big a drain on society from benefits and other things that there are in other countries, obviously. But everyone's different, you know. Like, I mean, my mum is disabled and she had four boys. I was the eldest, so we wouldn't have survived without some form of disability allowance. My mum used to get like 93 euros a week for five people. That's not a joke. Like 93 euros a week. Like, you can't do that. So she already had a mortgage. So she was going into negative equity, like all the time, lending, borrowing more and more and more. So she was getting 93. I don't think I told you that number before. 93, okay, this was 93 euros will go a little bit longer back then. As I don't know what the equivalent would be, but it wasn't that long ago. Like, so 93 euros a week for myself, three brothers, and my mum. Like, we used to get like charity hampers delivered and stuff. Like, it was challenging. Yeah. So if we didn't even get that, obviously that was government funded. So I understand that, and I don't want to dig people out, because there are people in situations like that you know, that can't be helped. But I guess I never wanted to. Don't think I've told this story on a podcast before, but there was in primary school in particular, there was a guy in my class whose grandmother was the head of St. Vincent de Paul in the area, which is a charity. And she used to deliver like a Christmas hamper to my mum's house, and every maybe 2 weeks before Christmas. And he happened to be with her in the car, and he didn't kind of clock that it was my house. And I would say for 2 years after that, like, all I got in school was like, you know, below the poverty line, and like, we're broke and all this, and like, it etched in my mind. And I was like, like, this is never going to happen to me ever again. And I think, like, it comes back to what we said about going through difficult challenges and things like that. But, you know, so I understand when people are in difficult situations, they might need benefits and things like that. So, you know, it's not for me to say, but I don't want to rely on those things if I can. Or now that I'm in a position where I can earn my own money, you know, I want to be in a country that's more congruent with my values and my goals. Yeah, I don't know how political you want.
Do you think that situation when you're younger is what's given you the drive?
It's definitely added to it. I mean, like, seeing my mum going through domestic abuse for a long time also gave me a drive. Like, for sure, I know this for sure. And this, I'll be honest with you, this is why I've got so much respect for you, is because you didn't grow up in a difficult environment from in the grand scheme of things, but you found a hunger within you, which is maybe, I don't want to have to rely on your money. I want to make my own. So you found your own hunger in your situation, which is why I've got a huge level of respect for you. Because you could have easily, I'm sure, like a lot of people that you went to school with, has just gone, oh, no, daddy will sort it. And you didn't. So we came from very different situations, but found a similar drive. And I think that comes from the story we told ourselves to get us to this point. Like, you had your fire, I had mine. There were different situations, but we found a similar fire, if that makes sense.
Do you think that story has to change as you evolve to keep that drive?
That's a good question. That is a good question. I'll be like, I have found ways in my life over the last few years to try and stay in the fire, because I was afraid that if the fire went, that my drive would go. So there's no point going into the specifics, but I would purposely invest in things so there was very little cash around to get comfortable, because I was afraid that if I had, there was a period of time where I wouldn't keep more than £1,000 in a bank account, and this was up to 2 years ago. I know we've laughed and joked about this for a long time, but I've not said this publicly before. I would buy property, invest it. I would put money in stocks. I would invest it. I'd put money in other things, and I would purposely keep no more than £1,000 in any one bank account. And the goal was that the 2 or 3 credit cards that were spending the stuff would need to be made back. Now, as the business has grown, that's a pretty silly financial decision, so that would be unstable. But for a period of time when it was me grinding on the phone, I was like, this is the hunger I need. Because I was terrified that if growing up in the environment that I grew up in, driving a Rolls Royce, living in a penthouse apartment and having money in a bank account, that I would get relaxed. And I was afraid that it would take away my gift, because that was my gift. My gift was this story, this life has created me. And whether it's a story I told myself, it happened, but whether it was a story I told myself or it was whatever, I didn't want to lose that. And I felt like if I lost that, I might lose my fire. So now I'm in a weird place, because I'm like, okay, I cannot live this way and I cannot live that way and be responsible for my business. But I also don't want to lose my fire. So in a way, I'm stepping into a rediscovery of like, okay, what drives me now? Like, how does that look? And it's challenging, to be honest. It's a good question.
So I think sometimes, have I got soft, or do I not work hard enough, or do I not work enough? Mm-hmm. And then you said something earlier, and I think it's also interesting how people label themselves, because I would never say that about myself now, mm-hmm. that I said I was lazy a few years ago, because I would never ever say. I would never.
Do you remember when you said it though?
No.
You said I remember exactly where you were. You were sitting in the bottom of the garden in the thing, and you said you had a list of things you need to do that day, and you said like, I'm inherently lazy. If I don't do it, it'll just get left. And I was like going, you're the least lazy person I know. But I think it was a story you told yourself to prevent yourself from not doing it. Because you just said now that, am I getting soft? Like, you work harder than 99% of people, but that's a story successful people in certain areas tell themselves. Like Tiger Woods would say he's bad at golf.
Like, so the way I would even try and reframe this is where I'm trying to think now. And I think that's what I said to you earlier. It's like, you start trying to play a different game, is that instead of me getting soft, I'm still working really, really fucking hard, but it's just on a different hard on different things. Right. So maybe the thing that's really hard that I'm working on, I actually enjoy doing, and I'll just do it anyway because I enjoy doing it, and then Henrik will be better at it anyway. Rather than it's like, yep, I don't have to spend all day doing sales calls, for example.
Right. And an example to that is the things that I used to do working hard in the business, I'm now not doing. So I've asked my team almost daily, like, what do you need from me? And the things they need from me normally are just go away, play pool, play snooker, and just listen to a few of the recordings and tell me what you find. And often I'll come up with something that just changes the game in our offer. And I'm like, that's all I need to do? Like, I'm like, and almost there's almost a skill in knowing not what to mess up. Like, I can just, like, I also don't want to, I've got very competent people in the business. I don't want to be like double checking what they're doing and like getting in their way. I need to just leave them. And Adam, who's here, said often, like, just let me just focus on executing. Like, let me just focus on I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. I just need to hear that, because in my mind, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? What am I doing this? It's like, so I need to know where my place is in the business. And as you grow and you scale yourself out of areas, you need to know, like, okay, I trust that person to cover that. And then it's like, okay, so what do we do now? And it's just, what's the higher, there's 5 things I wrote down that could be useful. You can give me maybe a few other ones. The things that if I'm not focusing on these things, so it was leads and ads, leads, vision, team, product, and systems and SOPs. And I thought, like, for me, they're like my main 5 buckets right now. So if I'm not doing one of these things, it's noise. If it's bringing better or more leads into the business, great. Is the vision where it needs to be? So at the end of every daily team meeting, I'm like, okay, am I happy? Is everyone happy with the leads and the ads? Yes. Is everyone happy with the vision? Yes. Is everyone happy that we have the team that we need? No. Okay, we'll hire this person. Write that down. Do we need to optimize the product, like, immediately? No. There's a few things we need to do. Okay, write that down. And then the last one is SOPs and systems. Is there an SOP that I can improve? And those are the main buckets. So that focuses me a little, I think.
I think the biggest reason most people struggle is they get distracted trying to do too many things. Mm-hmm. Whereas that's where, like, I think as people get more successful, you need to create as much space as possible. So like the Napoleon Hill book, like Think and Grow Rich, you just need to think and actually not think and then also execute. Because a lot of people just, they learn stuff for the sake of learning rather than learning and applying the thing. So I think you can often think, okay, like I need to make more money today. What offer can I make? I want to hit. I want to incentivize our sales team. How can I get these guys more motivated? What can I pitch them as some random bonus for the day? So like for me, I just see the whole thing as like a video game of how can you manipulate the business to get the outcome essentially you kind of want.
And I also think like if we, in the position we're in, if we just go, if this is the only thing I solve this week, this one thing, would it be a successful week? Like what would that be? Because if I said to you, you can't do anything this week, just one thing, that would have the biggest impact on the business. What would that one thing be?
Improve our Facebook ads.
Sure. Okay. So and then I would go, cool. Improve in what way? And then cool. And then okay, cool. Let me just do that thing, and then everything else is good. Because and again, it depends on where people are in their business. But most people are like, I need to, I want to do like the app or the data tracking thing, and and it's like you're not booking calls.
Dude, I'll give you a great example of this. So, and this really changed my perspective of a lot of things. And he's speaking at our event in November. For anyone who hasn't bought tickets, make sure you buy the tickets for the 14th, 15th for Mastermind event. It's Jordan Lee. And I think I told you this. So he's doing $6 million a month. His sharp rate is 30%.
I remember you saying
and he said to me, like, they've tried everything. If they could get it up 10%, their business would be worth 100 million more.
Yep.
They've tried everything. And then their close rate is 30%. I was like, so your sharp rate is 30%, your close rate is 30%. I was like, so you just have shitloads of traffic and high ticket offer. I was like, these things aren't actually problems. I just need to get more leads.
Right.
So I just need to spend more and improve the ads.
Yep.
Like when he said that to me, it really kind of changed my perspective. And this is also important for people of like the information you absorb and the people you hang around, because one person could say one thing, you're like, I didn't think about that. And I broke down the math of like, okay, how much does it cost us to get a call booked? If we booked in 10 calls, 3 sharp, and then we closed 1 in 3, is that going to be profitable? Yes. Okay, we'll just keep spending.
And it's like, is 4 plus 2 better than 2 plus 4? They're the same. It's just on one side of the funnel, okay, you've got more traffic, 4, and let's say your output is, or your conversion rate is 2. On the flip side, you're trying to optimize the conversion and your leads are 2. So they both still equal 6. So which one's easier to manipulate? So increase the spend often. Yeah. But at the same time, you don't, and that's come back to what I said earlier. It's like trying to be too efficient sometimes. Right. So, I mean, yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
What do you think is the most overrated business advice you've ever been given?
Oh. I don't know. This is probably a weakness of mine, is I don't ask for advice often broad. I ask very specific bits of advice. So I think probably one of everyone's different, so it depends. So, and this is leading into something else, is I understand everyone wants to run a business in a different way. My goal, and I know this is ironic because we're doing a podcast, but my goal is to create a business that helps a lot of people, that helps my team, that is efficient, that I love being part of. Not to be famous or well known. And you're great at this. It's one of the things that we differ in, is if I could do all of those things and disappear completely compared to how I used to run social media before, I would. Like, I don't post much anymore. And most of what I post is just photos of where I am, not me, or videos and things. Of course, I'll have to record an ad for something. But I understand build a personal brand. And it is one of the most successful ways to make money. I just made a decision over the last few years, maybe the last 5 years or more, that I don't want to build a personal brand even if it means I make more money. That's just my choice, because the life that I want to live, if I could, would be far more behind the scenes. But everyone's different there. And let me just clarify, it is a very, very successful way of making money. without needing to spend as much money on ads and to get a huge buy-in. But it comes at a cost. And some people, that cost is greater than others. The cost that I've paid in the past and the cost that the life that I want to live, I would prefer be better at business rather than be better at influencer business. And it's different. It's very different.
It's funny you say this because I had this exact conversation on Friday last week. I met with a guy who sold a software business in the fitness space 5 years ago for multiple 8 figures, and his non-compete's finished. And he asked me, he's like, I'm potentially doing some stuff with him, and he said to me, do you, like, I have no social media, do you think I should start focusing on building a personal brand? I was like, dude, like, you've already won. Like, you don't need it. Like, why? Like, what problem does this solve? You can just, like, rope in me, a couple other people can kind of be involved, and then you just run the back end and you make most of the money anyway.
One of our friends, I can't mention his name because he'd kill me.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah. Will exit his business for over $1 billion, and he owns a big percentage of it. Has zero social media presence. And so let's just say he exits hypothetically 250 million personally. And he invests into the S&P, he's making 20 million a year interest, like 2 million a month, maybe 1.5 million a month. So like, could he create a personal brand? Yeah, but would you? I mean, I wouldn't. I'd be like, hey, let me just invest this. I would never want to stop business because I love business. But if I liked creating content, the difference with long form or podcasting or doing communicating like this is this I actually enjoy because it's a good conversation and it goes online. That's fine. And it allows people to get a better understanding of what it is that we do. But creating a lot of content, probably because I'm not good at it, I would say maybe like it's but everyone's different, you know. So some people out there are amazing at content and they're not that great at running business. So having a good content is more valuable for them and they enjoy that, and that's good too.
Do you think a personal brand is overrated?
I would answer that question differently. I would say that before you decide whether to create a personal brand, I would ask yourself what it is you want out of business and what are you willing to sacrifice. And if it is you want to make a lot of money and you don't mind creating loads of content and putting your life out there to some degree, then it's a good choice. And I might change my mind down the line because I may decide that, you know, I want to go in a different direction. But if I could literally wave a magic wand right now, okay, I'm not going to say wave a magic wand because that would be infinite, but let's say a realistic where I want to see things in the future is the businesses that I'm involved now will grow 2, 3, maybe 4x. Everyone that's involved in the business is happy, looking after the people they love. We have an office in Dubai, maybe another one around the world. I am completely ghost off social media. I'm not the face of the brand. I've moved into mergers and acquisitions and have stakes in a lot of other companies, maybe invested in a software company or two. Like what appeals to me is going to sound wild is like a waste disposal company in like Doncaster. Like just how can I scale that business? I don't want to be like, I don't feel the need to be like the face of that brand. So for me, the things that I love out of business don't require me creating content. So that's great for me. So I think for some people, they should have created a personal brand a long time ago because of what they like and what they want and what they need out of business. But I think you'll get to a stage where you have enough money to a degree. I know what we said earlier, you'll never have enough money, but you'll have enough money that you can scale in different vehicles, I would say.
We've both been in the fitness industry online world for a while. Why do you think we've lasted and a lot of people have come and gone?
We didn't stop.
It's a good start.
Like we didn't stop. Like it's I saw a clip from Andy Frisella and he says this a long time. It's really, really difficult to beat someone who just keeps getting back up. And every time they get back up, they're stronger than when you knock them down in the first place. And I think entrepreneurship is just how hard are you willing to get punched in the face and keep coming back. And if you get punched in the face and you shy off and you come back weaker, then every time you get punched in the face, it's going to get worse. If you come back having been punched in the face and you're back stronger and more resilient and more equipped and more agile, or you understand what's happening, it's very difficult to beat that. How can you, by definition, you can't beat that person because it's harder to knock them down every time. And I think what has happened with us, because we've been through a lot, like pandemic, different variations of businesses, different businesses. Like, I think if someone stripped everything away from us and put us in like some jungle somewhere, we would start a business. We would stick to the things that we have learned. And as you said, our skills that we have acquired, our knowledge and our strengths, and we would make something work. Like if I said that you had to like grow an ice cream store in an ice cream chain, because the store wouldn't be big enough for you in Thailand, you would do it and you would be successful. You'd be running fucking Facebook ads tomorrow for like the best fucking ice cream, and you'd probably be selling people at the front of the store, like, because you know enough. And what I would say to people listening to this is, if you learn enough, it's hard if you learn enough and you're just not willing to fail, it's really tough to not win eventually. And as Bezos says, you only need to become rich once. You only need one killer thing. Like, we know people who are just degenerates in loads of things and they just hit one thing big and they're good. So if you're in a vehicle that isn't serving you, but you feel like it might be the vehicle is the problem, it's the way up between, is it the woman in the red dress as a distraction, or is it actually a course correction that you need to, because we've navigated what we've done. I think the goal would be to navigate to something that's more aligned to you, that you enjoy most, I would say.
The biggest mistake I think most people think is they don't realise that the vehicles and opportunities are way, way, way bigger than they ever realise.
That's true too.
I think
we had this conversation recently when you came back from Vegas the first time.
Yeah, because I remember Alex Ramosi saying to me, I was like, I think we've kind of saturated. It was like, you fucking retarded, like in front of loads of people as well, pretty much. And he was like, we were selling to boutique gyms. It was like 3,000-4,000 US and making like 3-4 million a month. It's like, dude, like,
yeah.
And I was like, you know, the thing I said earlier about the Jordan Lee thing, it's like people say things to you and completely like shift your perception of like, yeah, that's retarded.
Like scale.
Yeah. And you're like, even a different one. Might sound slightly egotistical. If I go to the gym in Dubai, generally someone will come up to me or someone will know me.
For sure.
Go to Las Vegas 4 days, no one fucking knows me.
Yeah.
No one. I've been to Vegas a lot.
Yeah.
Like, no one.
Yeah.
So I was like, no one gives a shit. No one cares.
Yeah.
No one cares. The market is so much bigger than you realise. Yeah. And also, like, people were like, we did a training the day for like clients on Black Friday that crushed, and people were like, well, I've just done this offer and I don't know. I was like, dude, look, no one will even remember what you did last month.
100%.
Just like, no one remembers what you posted. No one cares. They are thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
Just run the offer.
This ties into an answer to a lot of the questions you've asked, is really not caring what other people think as much. And I know that's cliche. And listen, you can say you've got thick skin. Everything will pierce a little bit. But I think it is really debilitating to really, really, really take criticism poorly in business. Like, and you've got tough skin as have I, you know. So it's some stuff can sting, of course. The stuff that stings is usually the stuff that's closer to true than the stuff that isn't. And that's a self-reflection too. But being able to, the first thing that I do if I see a critique of something, either something I've posted, which is rare, or something we've done, or someone's had a bad experience, maybe a lot of the time they've not done the work, whatever. I first go, can I see their perspective at all? And a lot of the time I can see an element of their perspective. And I think being able to handle some element of criticism is really important when you're growing a business. Because if you handle that the wrong way, you become volatile. It affects your decisions and your emotions. And again, Andy Elliott said that to you, right? Like, he said, just fuck him. Like, yeah. So I think that's another skill that's useful.
Yeah, I can't remember why I asked him. I think like as part of the course, someone made a video about me, I think, that fucking day. And I was like, oh, like, Andy, what do you do when like people try? He's like, literally fuck everyone, like fuck them all, fuck everyone. He's like, just use it as fuel. It's good. It shows you're winning. And I think about that a lot sometimes because people will only take shots at you when you're worth kind of having a shot at.
Yeah.
Like if you're carrying your works in the co-op, no one's making fucking content trying to have a dig. So I think that's also why like one of the big things I'm a big believer in is like it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. So like at a certain point, people love commenting on my Facebook ads, like all types of bullshit.
Yeah, you delete them, do you?
I reply to them sometimes, depending what they are, and like I don't know, like I commented the other day being like what color is your Ferrari or something to someone else, like when they made a comment about the car, and I was like, I can't help. I try and rein myself in because I don't want to get issues with my ad account, but it is amusing, and I think you also have to understand that like you triggering people is actually the job of marketing.
Exactly.
Like direct response marketing is you've put something into the world where you've got a reaction from someone and you pull someone in.
Yeah.
And your goal is either like you push people away or you pull people in.
You know, Sam Oven said this on an interview before. He said that his negative comments on his ads is one of the things he attributed to being as successful. He said that, and I was like, well, he said that the amount of comments that he would get increased the engagement on the ad. And he said that most people watching it in a neutral way, this was a good point, sorry. He said, if someone said something about the ads that was, he's like, yeah, that's kind of fair, I probably should change it, then that's good course correction. If the things that are being said are completely unfounded or like random, he's like, any sane, logical person will see that this is a ridiculous comment to make and actually favor you psychologically and actually go, that's a bit harsh. Yeah. And he said that not only does it increase the engagement, but it also pulls people the other way to almost defend you in a way, to go, like, even if they don't write, they go, well, that's a bit kind of harsh. Like, he's just helping people do X, Y, and Z. I remember him saying that. It was interesting. Yeah.
I think that's also where people just have to be not afraid to put themselves out there. But that's also, I think, where that resilience and the emotional stability and all those types of things come in. I think that's where a lot of people just stop at the first hurdle because they get a bit of flack for something. Like, I remember when I first started posting content online, like,
the guys in the gym,
bro, everyone's fucking having a pop, like big time. But like, where the fuck are they now? Like, it's like, success is the best revenge, which is what I say to everyone. It's like, you talked earlier about like energy and fuel.
Yeah. It's
like everyone has something. You can find things, and I'll often try and find things that piss me off a bit. If I'm like,
yeah, I think sometimes you'll ruffle some feathers because you need.
Yeah, I need competition.
You need someone else's feathers to be ruffled.
Yeah,
like,
I need to have.
You work well in that environment.
I need someone to fucking tackle horns with, fucking go with, because it's for me like I have to like rustle up some fucking vibe.
Who can I annoy in this industry so I fuel myself up in response? Like that's
but it works, and that's also like
But I know you well enough to know that like that's what's happening, and it works. I'm just like, yeah, cool. This is the enemy. At this period, this era.
But then you can also get your whole team to get into that same culture, and this is where you get like the tribe effect. Like I'm actually interviewing the author tomorrow. Have you read The Way of Men yet?
No. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, you sent it to me.
Yeah.
Oh,
have you listened to
it? Half of it, I would say.
It's bang.
Really good.
Talk about the perimeter and the tribe type of thing.
Yeah.
Like that's essentially what you're doing with your business. Is like it's them and us.
Yeah.
And like people who create that culture, you create that like competitive drive from within.
You're recording it remotely.
He's remotely. He's in Arizona.
Nice. Yeah.
So that should be pretty
It's a good book. Yeah. Halfway through it, but it's a good book.
If you were going to give someone one last piece of advice to finish up for 2026 to get what they want out of their business over the next few years, what would it be?
I can't overstate how important it is to sit down and ask yourself, what type of business would I like to have if I had $20 million in the bank? And I know it's easy to say that when you don't have and you're struggling to pay bills. But if you know what that looks like, as you progress, you can make steps towards that. And I think a lot of people look at, such and such is making 50K a month or 60K a month or 100K a month. And it's like, okay, do you have the minerals to have a team of 20? No. Do you have the minerals to spend 20K a month on ads? No. So you need to ask yourself, what life do you want? Do you want locational freedom? something that we do with a lot of our clients, clinicians, chiropractors, physios. We're like, okay, you're in the clinic. What sort of life do you want? Do you want to remove yourself from the clinic completely? Do you want to grow an online element as well as the clinic? Do you want a hybrid, or do you want to be completely remote? And I would ask anyone listening to this, like, what life do you want? Because most people don't know the answer to that question. So they're pissing in the wind. They're like going off on some trek with no destination in mind. And if you think making more money will solve all problems, it doesn't. It helps, as we mentioned, but if you're going in the wrong direction, you're in a bad place, I think. So I would urge people to sit down and say, if I had 10, 20 million in the bank, what would I do? And if the answer is I would sit and sip cocktails on the beach forever, then you're in a very difficult place, because very quickly you'll be bored stupid and you'll cause a lot of trouble. So I think that's a good answer, because most people make decisions based on money in business. If you make decisions based on meaning and purpose, the money comes to you. And it comes back to the advice I would give my younger self if I was young and dating and whatever. Don't chase. Just become the person, the business owner, the man that you know would attract these things to you. I think that's I know it's easier said than done, but if you have that North Star, it helps for sure.
So this is interesting. A podcast just went out, I think, with a guy called Will Armstrong, who's a client of ours, and randomly he's an addiction coach for like mainly cocaine addicts.
Sure.
He had an interesting background. And the thing he said most profound was when he joined our program, it's like, what do you want your business to look like and why? And he'd never even thought about it.
Right.
Like, whereas my process all the time is reverse engineering back. So I'm always thinking 3 years ahead. What do I want my day to look like? How much money do I want to make? Like, what do I want to be doing? What do I enjoy? What do I definitely not want to be doing? What do I want to live? Like, even, I haven't got my phone, but like living on the palm was on my vision board for this year. I didn't actually think it was going to happen, and then it did. The year before I wanted a supercar, I bought a supercar. Like, everything has happened because I had an intention in my mind that I wanted to get this thing or do this thing, and it happened. And not that you should chase success for materialistic things, because once you kind of had them, my personal opinion is you kind of don't really care anymore. But it can be another part of the fuel that can kind of give you a bit of a push along the way. Mm-hmm. And also when you start to tick things off the list and you realize you've done all these things, you're like, well, I can literally do anything. I just got to set my mind to that.
Yeah. And I think just like reverse engineering, that's important. But I've helped people take themselves out of I've done this at times. I've helped people take themselves out of areas of the business that gave them meaning. And they were lost. Like specific people who, mainly around the closing element of things that they really enjoyed, that now they're making less money not doing things they love. Right? Like they now have to pay extra commissions, but they thought, oh, that's the natural progression. Well, no, it isn't, because here's the analogy. You get on a train. Not everyone gets on this first stop and gets off at the last. People get off the train where they want to go. And in business, you decide where you get off. Do you do business, realize that you're not meant for entrepreneurship and become a closer for you? Do you become a coach for someone else? Do you grow your business to 20K a month and you're happy? Now you just want to lean out your expenses. Do you scale to 200K a month like Dom and other guys that you've coached? Like, not everyone is supposed to get to the end. Most people don't know what stop they're supposed or they want to get off at, and they stay on the train too long. Or they get off one stop before they should have. Does that make sense?
How do you know if you've been on the train too long?
Well, I think I think being self-aware with what you want out of life, and then, as you said, reverse engineering your business to align with those things, because the business is there. The business, you will be around longer than your business for 99.9% of people. Jeff Bezos, different. Elon Musk, different. But most businesses, any that we know, most of them will die before the founder. So who's serving? Now, I understand you want to serve your clients, and you want to serve your team, and you want to serve your mission. But without the founder and the leader and the direction, like, the rest just falls like a stack of cards. So if it's not aligning to serve you as a leader, as a man, husband, whoever it is that you are, then you're going to become disinterested. That will pass down to your team. That'll pass down to your leadership team. That'll pass down to your coaching team, your closers, and eventually that'll pass down to your clients, and it'll fizzle out. And the vast majority of people who we have seen who've come into the fitness space and leave, the mentorship and leave, is because they're like a kite in the wind. And they're not like, this is my mission, this is my goal, this is how the business is going to serve me, my team, and my people, and my clients. And I know that sounds very easy. The tactical stuff you can learn. The mental resilience you need to forge, and the fire you need to walk through, but you need to have that vision and go, what is it I want out of this experience? I think that's important. Very few people actually sit down and, because you said it too, but when I ask people, it's like, okay, what do you want your business to give you? They're like, the only thing that comes to mind is money. And then they go, oh, okay, well then freedom. And then, okay, maybe some locational freedom. Like, that's very vague. How many hours a day do you want to work? Doing what tasks? Making how much profit, and how many people are in your team, and who gets paid, and what's left over?
So one of the things I do every day, I write down exactly how much money I want to make every month, what my net worth is. So it's like I'm talking it into existence.
Yep.
And I've done that with everything that I've ever wanted to do.
Yep.
Because you're literally like programming your brain like this has happened in like present tense. Like I have X amount. I make this amount every month.
I think what that does is that reinforces who you are to yourself, but also to the people who know you. So here's an example. You can tell me if you don't think this is true. But I bet there's been a time where you've seen me in my car, or you've gone, I used to pick that rascal up from the train station, and you see me differently. When I said that I got the car, you probably went, I immediately became someone different in your mind. It's not about the car. But even coming here, I'm like, oh, this is Charlie. And I'm like, he lives on the pan. Like, your identity is shifted, not because of the material things, but because of your proximity to, let's say, your vision or your goal. And I think it's important to not only show people it's possible, but also you have to show yourself that it's possible too. Like you said, it's reinforcing the decisions. But yeah, again, I don't know all the answers. I'm on the same train with everyone else. I'm just maybe a few stops ahead of some and a lot of stops behind other people. So like I'm still trying to figure out, and again, it's dynamic. I think what's important, you said there, you do it often. Sometimes you'll change your mind. We have a client that I'm kind of helping right now. He went from 200K a month to 100K a month, but stopped taking sales calls. And I asked him, I'm like, which would you prefer? And he didn't know. He was like, well, 200K a month. And I'm like, okay, 20 hours of calls every week, an extra 100K a month. Some areas of his life he would say yes, he would prefer that. Some areas of his life he would say no, like some periods of his life. So he doesn't have kids. He's not really married. He's in the process of a separation. So he's like, well, I've got time. Let me just make a little bit more money. So that will change over time. But it's that self-awareness to be asking the question, I think, is important.
And that's what I'd also say for most people. I think it's very rare that you see anyone push or try too hard.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Well, if you're pushing too hard, you're probably just
working on the wrong things.
In the wrong direction. Yeah, because if you're aligned to the things that you want, I think you're just going in the wrong direction, I would think.
I think that's a good place to finish up on. Big thank you for your time today, Chris. Everyone who's got value from that, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow Chris on Instagram. He rarely posts, but sometimes he will do. He might do some special posts after this.
Yeah.
And if you took value from this, if you could share it with a friend, it would also be hugely appreciated when we continue to grow the podcast.